Writing children's books is one of the most rewarding things I've done in my writing career. But writing a good children's book, that on the other hand, can be a real battle. Hey, writers, I'm Keith Wheeler back with another video for you. And if you want to write a children's book, and more importantly, you want to write a good children's book, well, then this is the video you're going to want to check out. Because today we're going to dissect one of the best books I've ever read. And that is Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Now, Goldilocks and the Three Bears is a classic when it comes to children's picture books. It's also one of the best examples of a well-written story, which is probably one reason why it's such a classic. Now, I could go in depth as to why it's such a great book and all the aspects, not just for writing a children's book, but for writing books in general. But today we're going to focus on dissecting Goldilocks and the Three Bears when it comes to how to write a children's book. So if you're excited for this, then make sure that you give that thumbs up a smashy. Not only does it give me that nice warm fuzzy feeling, but it lets YouTube know to spread this video and show it to other people. With that, let's get started. So the first reason why Goldilocks and the Three Bears is such a great book and it's written so well is that it starts off with fun and familiar characters for the children. Children know what a little girl is. Children know what little bears are. You know, they've got teddy bears or whatever. So they use very familiar characters that are fun. The kids want to, not just the illustrations, but the kids want to see the interaction. The second reason why Goldilocks and the Three Bears is such a well-written book is that it actually has an arc in the story. There's a progression. You know, I've read so many children's books that, you know, it's just kind of stagnant. Like it's just a story, but nothing's happening. There's no action in it. And Goldilocks and the Three Bears is full of action. Whether it's at the start when, you know, the three bears are sitting down and they're eating their porridge, or when Goldilocks comes in and starts ransacking the house. You know, whatever part you're talking about, there's an arc to it. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. But even within the beginning, middle, and end, there's an arc within each of those sections as well. And so again, it's something that keeps the reader and the listener engaged at every aspect, every point in the book. And that leads me into the third point, which is it focuses on, ironically, the magic of the number three. Number three, 1, 2, 3, counting down, whether you're, parents are mad at their kids and they give them 3 seconds to do something. I'm going to count to 3. There's a magic to the number 3. Kids are familiar with 1, 2, 3 very early on in their life. And while they may not be able to count or whatever, the magic of number 3 just really emanates many of the best classic children's books, including Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So like I said, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. But within that section, each of those sections, there's also 3 steps for each one. For example, when Goldilocks goes and she tries out the porridge, this one's too hot, this one's too cold, this one's just right. Again, 3 things, 3 different elements. And again, not only going back to what I said before, it's a progression. There's an arc. It's going from one point to the other, but also again, it's just repeating that number 3, not in a repetitious, boring way, where they're counting 1, 2, 3, but they do it in a more fun and engaging and interactive way. So the kids can see them trying, the hot porridge, the cold porridge, and the just right porridge, or the chairs, or the bed, or whatever. The kid is along for the ride. The next reason is that it teaches basic concepts, but it doesn't do it in a preachy way. Like I was saying about, the number 3, it doesn't do it in a very, boring 1, 2, 3 way or preachy way. It does it in an adventurous way where the kid is going through it with Goldilocks and, trying each of the chairs, trying the porridge, trying each of the beds. It's almost like the kid can envision it even without the book. And that is a great way to really dial in what's a classic children's book and what's just a normal children's book. If the kid can envision it even without seeing the pictures, that tells you that it's a good classic book. A myth that's gone around for years is that children's books in audio format don't sell. And that's hogwash. If it's a good book, it'll sell in any format, including audiobooks. If you can make your story so lively and so vivid that the kid's imagination is there following along, even just by hearing it, that right there is a great classic children's book. The next reason why Goldilocks and the Three Bears is a perfect example of writing a children's picture book, and that is, like I said earlier, is the repetition. It's got repetition, but not in a boring way. The repetition in the dialogue, not just in what's happening, but what she's saying. When she says, this porridge is too hot, this porridge is too cold, this porridge is just right, and then she eats it. She sits down in the chairs. This chair is too hard, this chair is too soft. The kid can see what's going to happen. And especially when they've already heard the story one time, it doesn't take long before the kids start saying what's going to happen next. Again, they can't read, but they can remember it because it's repetition, not rhyming, but repetition. And repetition is something that really, as human beings, we're creatures of habit. And so repetition is something that we just instinctively latch onto. And so if you can, in your book, make repetition, but not boring repetition, but again, make it so it doesn't have to rhyme, but a certain rhythm, a certain pattern that happens. Again, not necessarily in the stanzas or anything else, but in something that is predictable for the child, something that the child can latch onto and remember. Okay, the sixth thing that makes Goldilocks and Three Bears a perfect example of a written children's book classic is that it's full of action. Like I said earlier, from the beginning to the end, there's always something happening. No one's just sitting there doing nothing. And there's never any spot where they, just describe what the room looks like or describe what the outdoors looks like. They don't do that. They're in the woods. That's all you know about the outdoors. It's the woods. Okay. All you know about the house is what is actually physically happening. You don't know what kind of pictures are on the walls or if there's a fire in the fireplace or any of that other stuff. You know what is going on, what the bears are doing before they leave, and you know what Goldilocks is doing while she's there. But again, it's all active. Kids and human beings in general, but especially children, their attention spans very quickly will go from reading a story or hearing a story to something else unless they're always engaged. And again, by having a story where it's always action, something is always happening. It doesn't have to be, car crashes and all that other crazy stuff, just something is happening that keeps them intrigued, from line one all the way to the end. The next reason is that Goldilocks and the Three Bears leaves room for questions for children. Children love to learn. They want to know why, they want to know what, they want to know who, how, all that. That's how they learn, and they love to learn new things. And questioning is a great way to make your book stand out and to make children want to keep coming back for more and talk about the story even after they're done hearing it or reading it. So some of the questions that may come up with Goldilocks and Three Bears is simple questions like, what's porridge? For depending on where you are in the world, you may not know what porridge is. Also, what happens next? What happens when Goldilocks leaves? What happens? Little questions like that. Nothing mind-boggling, but again, questions, intrigue, things that, again, even after the story's over, they're still thinking about the story. They're still wondering. And wonder is something that, as a children's book author, is something that you absolutely want to give to your listeners, your readers, is the sense of wonder, the sense of what could happen, what happens next, that kind of thing. Now, if you've liked these reasons so far, and if you agree with me or disagree with me, let me know down in the comments. But again, this is just one of many amazing classic children's books that are out there. And if you want, let me know if there's any other book that you'd like me to dissect, and let me know in the comments as well, and I'll dissect that as well. But we've got one more reason why Goldilocks and the Three Bears is a perfect example of writing a good story, especially a children's picture book. And that is, it doesn't have to make logical sense. Only adults are asking questions like, where are the parents? Why is there a child walking around in the woods? Kids don't think that way. And so you don't need to overanalyze and overthink things when you're writing a children's picture book. Kids will take it for what it is. They'll ask questions, but again, they're not asking these questions like, why is there a kid in the woods? I mean, they might ask when they get older, but if you're reading this to, a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, they're not asking those kind of questions. They're asking the questions that I talked about before, like, what is porridge? If they're younger, they might say, what does it mean to too hard, too soft? Again, things that you can explain very easily, or what happens next? What happened after she, ran out of the woods? But they don't think of these, crazy logic questions, things that, again, as adults, we'll probably think of every time we read stories like this. It's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would she be in the woods by herself? What kind of parents are doing that? That's a great reason why shows like Dora the Explorer are so popular with kids. Adults might be saying, why is there a young kid wandering around in the woods with a monkey and where the parents? Kids don't think that way. Okay. I've seen a lot of stories, a lot of children's picture books where the writer writes it basically for the adult. They analyze every little thing. They explain every little thing. Kids don't care. And when you're explaining things, then that's when things start get boring. Again, remember what I said earlier. It's all about adventure. It's all about things moving. And adventure doesn't mean have to be, climbing mountains, but there's always something happening. And so when you're writing your children's picture book, don't overanalyze it. Don't try to be super logical. Come up with a good story that a child is going to want to hear. Things that are repetitious that they might be able to catch on to fairly quickly. Keeping with fun and exciting and familiar characters. Make sure that it has an arc. Make sure that it has a beginning, a middle, an end. Make sure that there's progression. So the people, whether they're children or dogs or adults or any other animal, that from the beginning of the book to the end, something about them has changed. They have gotten better at something, or they've learned something. And again, it doesn't have to be preachy, but something that has progressed from point A to point B. Now, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel and click that bell notification so you get alerted every time I put out new videos just like this one. And don't let the learning stop here. Check out this video right here. It's actually one of my favorites. But if you've already seen that one, or maybe it doesn't interest you, YouTube says that this video right here is perfect for you. So I'll catch you inside one of these videos, and remember to write right.